Hey guys, welcome back. You can see the cycle is beginning anew behind me. Soon you'll see many more leaves and much more greenery behind me. But apologies, I've neglected shaving. I guess I've been buried in the research. No, not really. I've been pursuing more worldly interests, I guess, if you can call it that. Really taking advantage of the four energy I'm in to get my ducks in a row financially, right? And that's what I do. I help people understand the energies that are coming in their life scripts, so that they're not surprised and overwhelmed by what may be happening, and rather they could take advantage of those energies. So that's what really I've been trying to do, is take advantage. So let's start this video. Let's tap into some inner knowledge. I think that might be my new intro. Tap into some inner knowledge. All right. So this matrix, in a sense, firstly, I want to point out that I believe we are powering the system, but the mechanism of the systems are also making it work, right? Kind of like a computer, right? The electricity is powering the computer, but there are components that are making, the image appear on the monitor, that are making the computer start, right? And run certain programs, right? So then let's look into the idea of this pyramid. First of all, we have the symbolism for Lucifer, the one eye in the pyramid, right? It's an I, AI, right? AI, artificial intelligence, and I. So there's that component to it. But there's also the prism, right? Light coming into the prism. Lucifer being the light bearer, because he does not have the light. He's simply taking it, he's holding it, right? Just like the prism looks like a pyramid, is a prison for light. It's holding the light, but it also fractures it, right? It separates it, or it gives the illusion of separation, at least. So there's that element. So then, could the pyramids here be doing something similar? Okay, we've talked about this before in other videos, where the pyramids could be transfers of consciousness, but were also used as sacrificial altars by the cultures that had them, and they're everywhere, not just the Egyptians, right? They're all over Mesoamerica, all over Eastern Europe, all over Asia, and all over Antarctica and Africa for sure. Now these pharaohs would go into these pyramids, and what they would potentially do is transfer their consciousness from one body to another, or something similar to necromancy, which is why they mummified their bodies. They would preserve the body so that the spirit could come in, or the consciousness, or whatever energetic being could come in to the body, right? These were usually some sort of reptilians, some sort of negatively intended beings, right? Pir, Ra, Mid, they're for Ra. Ra being Lucifer. Maybe the demiurge was using these bodies to come in and play as various archetypes. And they had chambers, right? One was potentially to come in, and one was to leave, right? So on the sides of the pyramid, and these were at 45-degree angles. So that also brings me to the point, okay, when we die, does our soul or our spirit need to leave the body through our heart, through the crown, or at a 45-degree angle, similar to how the pyramids are depicting it, right? They say the answer to life is 42. Could it be talking about the 42-degree angle, maybe similar, close in proximity to 45, right? I was talking to Jen. She said it was much easier for her to leave her body at will, or not at will, but during sleep, when she would do crown chakra meditations and womb focused meditations, as opposed to the heart ones. She felt she was more centered in her body when focusing on the heart, and the idea that we leave the body through the heart upon death may be more myth or rumor than truth, right? Because the soul is more likely centered in the solar plexus, not necessarily in the third eye either. The third eye is a receiver. That's why the silver cord is coming out of the solar plexus when astral projecting. Now, some people say they've never seen the cord, but that's how I've seen it depicted, at least. So back to the pyramids. Could they be manifesting through our consciousness this reality? Could they be like the graphics card of this reality? So the eye in the pyramid, right? In our own eyes, it said that the iris, or not the iris, but the eye, the pupil looks like a universe, a mini universe, right? The blackness inside it could be like the black hole at the center of the universe. If you look around the outside of it, it looks like an actual universe. Now inside these eyes, which are analogous to Lucifer, because the sigil for Lucifer is the same way that our eyes perceive images. It's reversed, right? Now inside the eyes there are cones and rods. Now I can bet you that they said cones instead of pyramids for the sake of keeping one syllable word short and easy, right? And a cone looks very similar to a pyramid. It's just rounded at the bottom. These cones are light receptors, right? Some people have more cones and rods than others activated, and they're able to perceive more colors than others, right? Some people can't perceive red. They're red colorblind, or they're green colorblind, right? So we see that reflected in the eyes. Now, if we look at a typical motherboard, the pyramid would be analogous to the microprocessor, potentially. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone that's a computer programmer or knows about these things. The microprocessor could be analogous, or it could be used as a graphics card as well, I believe. They're very similar in the way they look, at least. So that could explain why there are multiple pyramids everywhere. Okay, and the eye connection, and Lucifer being the eye in the pyramid, right? Is that in some way simulating this reality? Now, I was listening to another person's DMT trip, and this one had gone wrong in a sense. They made it out to be a bad trip. They had encountered the machine elves, right? At one point, they actually encountered themselves in a soul pod, kind of like Tina and Karen talk about in their regressions and what other people have seen. And there were these praying mantises that were working on the people in the soul pods. They were experimenting on them, right? And it was kind of like this movie I watched. I'm sure you guys may know about it, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, or I think it's just Planet of the Apes, where they're experimenting on monkeys and they're giving them these drugs to make them smarter. So they experience a jump in intelligence, which is what happened to us. We didn't evolve to our level of intelligence. We experienced a jump in intelligence. And like I said, I believe that could have been from the descent of the true spirit, the true divine sparks with a natural innate intelligence to them already. So these monkeys experience a jump, and they end up realizing they're stuck in a prison, in the lab, and they seek to be free. So they basically revolt against the humans. Now, back to the DMT experience. Afterwards, she had actually met these machine elves, and they were explaining to her how they are part of all the consciousness. Now, if you remember in 434, they talk about how they can knock on the window, knock on the bubble or the fishbowl that this reality is, and influence it through numbers, right? And Terence McKenna describes these beings as playful jesters. So they told her that they are part of everything. They can be a part of everything. They can possess anything, right? But what they didn't say, because they don't tell you the whole truth, is that they need the consent. That's why they asked her for her consent to then possess her. And once they did that, they started communicating to her through her inner voice. Okay. And there is a theory, I believe it's the bicameral mind, that says our inner voice, which apparently only 50% of people have, was actually alongside another voice that was used in unison by these gods. The ancestors described as gods, more likely were the archons, these energetic beings, that it was sort of like schizophrenia, which it was schizophrenia in my opinion. Not like the disease, but, or what they make it out to be as a disease, but it was the ability to commune with higher energetic vibrations. And they could hear these beings talking to them through that inner voice, right? So it's the bicameral mind. So that's what they're able to do. And they describe this reality as being one run by focus. Okay, so just like, you know, the double slit experiment, when you observe something, you're focusing on it. Where energy goes, energy goes where focus flows, where attention flows, or something like that. I forgot the exact expression, but you know what I'm talking about. So if you can learn to relax your vision, you start seeing the codes come out of the reality. And many people report this on trips. They see some sort of code coming out of the walls. It's usually a matrix code or a computer code, or some even say Hebrew, right? And that code is coming out of literally of the layers of this illusion, because it's a hologram. And someone described the hologram as the way a hologram is created is through mirrors and lasers, right? Lasers being the light, right, the fixated light, and mirrors being the place where we are, right? But again, this place is an inversion, right? When you look in a mirror, you're not looking at your true self, you're looking at your inverted self, right? The reflected self, right? It's not really the same thing, right? The same image, at least, or the true image. And that's because this realm is the below of as above. As above, so below. They're reflections of each other, the white hole and the black hole, the yin and the yang, right? But they're part of the same matrix. Just because as above is considered heaven or higher energetic, the higher energetic realm, doesn't mean it's the true heaven, the true outside of this place matrix, right? I was just watching something and saying, oh, if you turn away from the white light and you look behind you, you see the whole universe. Well, yes, you see the whole universe, but that's still something that's part of this matrix, right? That whatever dimension of Lemuria, or whatever, not Lemuria, but I don't know, Pleiades or whatever other star seeds think they're from, that's still part of the matrix, still part of the universal matrix. And the soul reincarnation wheel, samsara, isn't only present on this earth, right? The human kingdom is only one of the 6 realms here. And that's why the universe actually has the shape of a figure 8 of infinity, because the whole universe is trapped in a loop. Earth is just one part of that loop that you can go to, and it might be actually the center of that loop. Yeah, we may be not necessarily fully in the below, more so in the Midgard, more so in the purgatory, right, in the heaven of hell, rather than fully in the black hole. Because what this realm once was, and you can see in the above, it's the same dramas that play out down here, right? If you study Greek mythologies and you study all these Greek gods, arguably could be said that they were personified, but they're archetypes, and they go through the same dramas. And that may require a whole nother video on its own. But just listen to all of the Greek mythological stories, and you'll see some sort of drama happens. It's the hero's journey, right? It's the age of heroes. They talk about that as well. And oddly enough, heroes sounds very similar to Eros, right? But there's some sort of drama that happens. God marries a goddess or a mortal woman, gets bored, right? Lust overtakes him, or desire for power and fame and adventure overtakes him. God conquers some beast, comes back in all of excitement, and he forgets to put the sails, to turn the sails from black to white, and then his father jumps off a cliff. And all of a sudden, that fame came at a price, right? There's always a price. There's always worship, right? We look at the goddesses like Aphrodite, Hera, Athena. These goddesses would all get pissed off when they stop being worshipped. So what would they do? They would curse the people that stopped, that forgot, or they'd give them some sort of harsh discipline or reminder to say, hey, you forgot about worshiping me. You must always worship me because I was the one that gave you beauty, that gave you these things, right? These worldly, material illusions. And that's how they run that. But going back to my previous point, that this realm, being in the Hall of Mirrors, being that this is the pyramid down here, but they also do this one, right? This one could be representing up there because it's pointing down, coming down, right? And this one's pointing up, and that's where we have the Merkaba, or the Star of David, uniting, giving the 5 elements with the ether, right? This reality, that all of it, the universe, was Tiamat, potentially. It was the darkness, the chaos, the matter. And Apsu, Lucifer, the false light bringer, came and created, right? He was the light bringer, the light bearer, the bearer of true light. We were that true light. Came down with the light of, Sophia, and created the false light. When in that union of darkness with light, created twilight, created grayness, created what this reality is. Right? The whole reality is an energetic vibration because God said, let there be light. God used the word to create this world. World. It is of the world, it is of the word, it is of vibration, it is a sound, which means it oscillates. What oscillates? What is up and down? The sine wave. It's the sine and cosine wave. These two together form this reality of duality. We're up, we're down, we're up, we're down, we're up, we're down. Anything that vibrates is not of the true spirit. Spirit does not vibrate, it is unified. This reality vibrates because it is separate. It is separated. It is the illusion of movement. Movement happens here, right? And in some way, these pyramids are affecting this reality. Now, who knows how much they are affecting them as much anymore, because the capstone is missing on the Giza pyramids, and many of the true pyramids potentially are not functioning anymore from what we see, at least, right? We don't know what could be happening underneath. Another funny movie I watched that can actually reveal a bunch of things is the movie Watch. It's on Hulu, I believe, where Ben Stiller and a few other guys, but Ben Stiller is the main guy. He starts this neighborhood watch to figure out who killed his Costco employee friend, and it turns out it was this alien being that were hiding underneath Costco, underneath our earthly plane in the abyss, right? And they've been formulating a plot to invade Earth. It was actually quite interesting how much it revealed. So check that one out if you're interested. But could they be underneath the pyramids? Could they be using the pyramids to their advantage, right? The pyramids of Giza are centered towards Orion. Remember that consciousness transfer? Were they hopping between Orion and this plane, right? And maybe if you leave your body at a 45-degree angle, do you then return to the higher upper worlds rather than the true worlds, right? I personally think it's a straight shot out of the crown chakra, right? Everything becomes unified, you're set on your intent, and boom, you get out. You exit the matrix overlay system fully, rather than stopping at levels along the way, the 13th floor or anything like that, right? So I don't know. Let me know, any people that are computer whizzes, in regards to what I said about the computer components and what the pyramids could represent. But it's a theory that maybe has some merit, maybe it doesn't. I know Archaics talks about this, or some people were mentioning this, and it's interconnected with the Phoenix, right? The Phoenicians, which then became ancient Kemet, Egyptians, which then became Israelites, which then became Roman Empire, which then became USA, worshipped the Phoenix. It turned into the eagle later on, but the Phoenix is prevalent. And you know, we have the Phoenix event, which could potentially be the one resetting this whole matrix, and in a sense bringing in the end of another archive, right? So yeah, let me know what you thought about that in the comments. Give it a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.